So look, what do you make of what you've read so far then, vis-a-vis your thoughts from Friday from the initial announcement from Chequers?
Well, it's as bad as the 3 pages which we were given as a pre-briefing. I've held off commenting, really, but I'm very worried about the public reaction. 17.4 million people voted in the referendum to leave. They were given the absolute categoric final decision. That was made clear by Parliament, and largest vote in British history. That was then endorsed in the general election by Theresa May. The Conservatives got the largest vote since John Major, and the Labour Party at the same time, both main parties getting 85% combined for leaving the single market, leaving the customs union, and leaving the remit of the European Court of Justice. And that is a pretty clear, in my view, democratic directive from the people. First of all, to leave, and then a definition of what leave meant. And this paper, I'm afraid, is going to disappoint people, and they're not fools. They are going to feel royally shafted by this.
But do you not attribute any levels of common sense, though, to some voters who may say, yes, we voted to leave the European Union, but of course it's a complicated issue, and there has to be some level of compromise?
Of course it does, but why are we making ourselves prisoners of a system for 12% of our economy, which is concerned with sales to Europe, when the European Union itself says that well over 90% of world growth in the next 20 years is going to be outside the European Union, when our exports to Europe are falling year on year as a proportion of our economic activity, and we're going to tie down goods, where we happen to be the 4th biggest importer of goods in the world, to a customs trade bloc where there are high tariffs which push up prices of raw materials for all companies, which push up prices of food and clothing and everyday necessities for every single citizen. Senior economists reckon we could have about an 8% gain on people's incomes. It's worth about £2,300 per family if we took off all tariffs. But while we're effectively in the customs union, we cannot do that. So this is not good for the 100% of the economy, and it's not good for the 88% of the economy who do not sell to Europe.
You're not on your own. Jacob Rees-Mogg, he's already said it's a bad deal for Britain. Ian Duncan-Smith says he's got deep misgivings. He kind of reflects what you had to say. He said he didn't vote to half leave Europe. I think the pertinent question now then, aside from the detail from today, is what are you actually going to do about it? You can come on for Radio 5 Live and spout till your face goes red, but what are you going to do? Can you change her mind? Are you going to bring her down? What's the next step?
No, definitely not. I mean, the Prime Minister has delivered Article 50, which is a major step, and only 2 weeks ago we got the Withdrawal Act through, which is a massive step. So the first line of that says on exit day, the remit of the European Communities Act, which brought in all that law, which was 170,000 pages, so that's active law now, that comes entirely under our control. So that is a massive step. What we don't want to do is to go half back in. And so in order to have this arrangement around goods, what we're going to have to do is to take chunks of European law back and reinstate them. And I asked the Secretary of State how many pages of the 170,000 would be reinstated. He couldn't name it. I've asked at the backbench briefing. It's not entirely clear, but what is clear is once it's back in law, we can never amend it again. What is also clear in that sphere of activity, when new law comes along being cooked up in Europe, they will listen to our experts, unquote, but we can't vote for it. So this is not taking back control of our laws at all.
I take again what you're saying, but what can you practically actually do about this? How can you stop this proposal going to the European Union and you guys having to just sit by it and wave it goodbye?
Well, we've put some amendments down to the trade bill next week, which will be a test of thinking. What was very obvious is the Labour Party is talking to some of their members, they are very split. I suspect, frankly, at the moment, the honest answer is that possibly no solution will get a majority through the House of Commons at the moment. But I'm quite clear that we would like the Prime Minister, once she's seen the Trump visit through, that she should really rethink this, because there's all sorts of consequences. I mean, moving on from what I was just saying, if we absorb all this European law back in, that's going to make it very hard to do trade deals with people. I mean, if you take a country like India, where I was involved when I was doing DEFRA, we import, for instance, lots of mangoes from India. They produce wonderful mangoes. We don't produce any. And they don't like some of the European phytosanitary rules. We would love to sell them lots more whiskey.
Yeah.
Our largest food and drink export, over 4 billion, and they would love to buy more. They have huge duties, over 500% duties. Now, if we were to do a trade deal with India, just on those two products, we're completely stuck. If the Indians sound frightfully sorry, we're just not going to accept these European rules on mango imports.
I take that, but
so that's the growth. India's just overtaken France as the sixth biggest economy in the world. They're going to overtake us quite soon. That's the future. The world is our future, not faffing around with this 12% of our economy devoted to sales to Europe, which is dwindling.
You obviously feel very, very strongly about this, but just the kind of the final question, just so our listeners can judge the strength of your principle. What you're saying, you've outlined all the reservations you've got and all the issues you have with your Prime Minister, but you just to clarify, you're not prepared to sacrifice her leadership for your principles. You would rather have a Conservative Prime Minister than actually make a stand and say, look, I'm not having this. It's not what we voted for, and if it means your neck on the line, that's what it means. You're not prepared to go that far, is what you're saying.
No, I'm very not happy, but if necessary, I will vote against this. If this is the proposal that is brought back to Parliament, because Parliament has agreed there will be, quote, a meaningful vote. So if this is the deal that's being offered, I will definitely vote against it. If you're saying, is there a confidence motion against the Prime Minister, obviously I'm definitely going to vote to keep a Conservative government, rather than have some dotty Marxist who doesn't believe in free markets or capitalism or keeping people in jobs.
I understand that, but this eventually it would become a de facto no confidence vote, wouldn't it, if so many Conservative MPs continually voted against the Prime Minister's proposals?
No, not necessarily. No, what I would hope is, the whips are. We work very closely with the whips getting through the Withdrawal Act. They listen very carefully to all parts of the party. I hope they would listen to what we're saying now.
Okay, all right. So you're relying on her changing her mind, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I very much hope so.